Hello, my name is Mustafa. I share with you 10 tips that I believe will save you a lot of effort, time, and energy in your essay writing process. I believe that these tips will also help you write a higher quality essay. My first tip is to challenge the assumption that you have to start writing at the introduction. I wholeheartedly disagree with this, and I hope that you will agree with me when I say that it is very hard to start at your introduction because it's very hard to introduce an essay that you haven't written yet. How can you introduce an essay that hasn't been written yet? How can you introduce an essay that doesn't exist? Every guide that I have seen on this platform advises you to well, implicitly advises you to start at your introduction. They say, oh, you should have a nice hook, mention your thesis statement, but they never actually tell you that writing an introduction first is very difficult. It's needlessly difficult, and I think it puts a lot of people in a sort of action paralysis that they can't do their introduction and they waste a lot of time on it unnecessarily because they're going to come back and change it anyway, while they could be working on the main body and the main points of the essay and come back to the introduction later. I would advise you to write your introduction as the second last paragraph after your conclusion. So write your main body points, then write your introduction, and then write your conclusion. Believe me, you'll save a lot of time and a lot of energy. Next up, don't just jump into writing. The tiniest amount of planning, the tiniest amount of reading, and the tiniest amount of research will save you a lot of effort. This is especially true if you consider the fact that you aren't the first person to write on your topic, and so it will be great to see what other people think. If you're an art student, then of course you will have to do some level of research. But even if you're writing on any topic, it speeds up your thinking process so much to see what other people have said. So always trying to read. Ideally, you would take everything useful and just dump it into a document, add some notes on what parts are relevant, perhaps highlight or embolden what's relevant, and just keep it there. Once you do that, you'll have something to start off with as opposed to trying to invent the wheel. After you look at everything, take a little bit of time, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, to just walk away from everything that you read and to try and to forget about everything and just focus on something else. This can be a break as short as a small walk. You can go outside for 5 or 10 minutes or just interact with your friends and family, or you can take an entire day off, which is what I prefer to do. I prefer to be very intensive with my reading and to take an entire day off. If you do that, it will allow for diffused thinking to occur, which is the type of thinking that you want to occur if you want to come up with your main points for your essay. And this is something that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. So a lot of people are familiar with the type of focused thinking, the very laser focused thinking that you would have to do when you're solving a math problem or a science problem, or you have to do a lot of deep work. This is the thinking that school will emphasize, but they underemphasize the importance of diffused thinking, the sort of very broad and conceptual thinking that's very meandering, it's very sort of time consuming. It's not as intensive and you don't concentrate on it, and it sort of happens in the background. This type of thinking is great when you're coming up with strategies and when you're coming up with meanings and connections and when you're trying to come up with main points for your essay, purely because it's very difficult to come up with them in a state of deep focused thinking. So I advise you to try and engage in this thinking and try to control the process of diffused thinking. It will happen unconsciously throughout your life. Perhaps you're in the shower or you're taking a walk or you're washing the dishes, and it's there that you get your best ideas. And that's because diffuse thinking is very powerful in coming up with creative, new, original ideas. So diffuse thinking does not have to be accidental. If you do a lot of reading and you give yourself some time to do something else, I promise you that you can use this sort of thinking to benefit your essays massively. It is a strategy that I use for every piece of my writing, and I advise for you to do the same. Now, this may seem straightforward, but I promise you that a lot of people miss this point entirely, and that is to try and have a main point in the essay. The reason I include this is because this is the most time-saving tip that I can give you. If you have one main idea and all your ideas branch off from that one idea, you will cut off a lot of irrelevant information and a lot of useless facts that will not get you any marks and that will exhaust you, the writer. So try and have a main point. Make it specific. Make it narrow and make it focused. And if you're really daring, try and make it controversial. It has to be arguable and it has to be demonstrable. But try and make it a little bit controversial. Try and make it so that it's a little bit of a challenge to prove your point. And then try and come up with ways to prove your point. Try and come up with 3 or 4 main ideas that fits in under your main thesis idea. This is called the thesis idea. That will help you focus your essay. This is the way I like to do it. I like to sort of give myself a little box. I try to finish my reading. I put all my books away, and I sit with a blank piece of paper. I draw 4 boxes, and I try to identify what's my opinion and what's my stance. What's my thesis? I write it as succinctly and as concisely as possible in a small box, and I try to come up with my subpoints. If you do this, or if you're capable of doing this, then you truly understand the subject material. You truly understand what your essay is all about. So try and have your main thesis point, try and come up with it, and try and come up with your subpoints. This is the hardest part. If you can do this, your essay is basically done. You just need to write it out. And so in the writing process, there are a lot of things to keep in mind that will, again, save you time. Try and mimic the point evidence explain format. And if you don't know what that is, well, much like how you have your thesis idea that's summarized in 1 sentence, your subpoints should also have, or should also be able to be summarized in 1 sentence. If you can do that, then you have your point already. You start off your paragraphs with your point. Once you have your concise sentence, bring it to the forefront of your paragraph. This will flag to the reader the point of the paragraph, and so they'll be predisposed and open and able to understand everything that you have in that paragraph. Once you have that point, back it up with some evidence, give it a little bit of explanation as to how the evidence proves your point, and then link your point back to your thesis. So you have your point here, your piece of evidence, your explanation, and then link it back to your thesis. How does this subpoint prove the bigger point or the thesis of your essay? Once you have that, it should be fairly straightforward to complete the paragraph. Rinse and repeat for all of the paragraphs. And if you follow the step, it will help you out in the introduction and conclusion. When you're writing these paragraphs, write simply, have a point, as we previously stated. Do not use big words if you don't need to. I promise you this, you can get full marks on an essay without using a lot of big words, or synonyms, or whatever people do nowadays, or long sentences. You can write your essay in a way that a 5-year-old can understand it. Well, not in every situation, but in most situations, and you can still get full marks. If you do try to artificially inflate your essay with all these words and bigger words and synonyms and whatnot, professors can detect it, or teachers can detect it from a mile away. And you will not be able to do it correctly if you don't know what you're talking about. But the thing is, if you do know what you're talking about, if you truly are knowledgeable, then you have nothing to compensate for. Your ideas will be what brings value to your essay. So you don't need to. The people that use big words are the people who aren't confident in their ideas. Be confident in your ideas. Spend a little more time thinking about your ideas than thinking of bigger words to use. And write with simplicity and clarity in mind. This will save you time and get you a better essay. Another interesting point is to try and reorder your paragraphs. If your paragraphs don't fit in the best way possible, you will spend a lot of time editing and re-editing and trying to change the essay a little bit to make it flow better. Whereas if you perhaps there is a different order to your paragraphs that will fit more naturally, that will benefit your essay in terms of the marks and will save you time on editing and making it sound good. So this is a little snippet from our guide on our website, but there are many ways you can order your essay. This is something that a lot of people have thought very hard about. You can use chronological order, common in expository writing, or you can use order of significance. Whichever order works best for your essay, try to use that. It will make your essay writing process easier. Finally, or not finally, but almost finally, if you did follow the steps in this guide and you use topic sentences in the introduction and conclusion, then you can simply do this and you will save a lot of time when writing your introduction and conclusion. It could even be done in 10 minutes, in 5 minutes, sorry. And so let's see how this could be done. So here we have a sort of template that I've created. It's available for free on my website to help you write better essays. And in the essay, you have your introduction. You write 1 or 2 sentences to introduce the essay, whatever. You have your thesis statement here, the main block, the nucleus of your essay. But then you just, for the rest of the introduction, all you need to do is just list your topic sentences. So we have our topic sentences here. The first one is in yellow, the second one is in green, the third one is in light blue. And you simply list them here. You say, I will illustrate or explore or examine or appraise or evaluate, whatever your thesis statement is. And you say, I will do this or I will prove this by, and you simply list your topic sentences. And that's it. And in a perfect world, the introduction is 10% of the word count. The exact same is true for the conclusion. I conclude my essay by saying in conclusion or to conclude, and I follow up by saying that this answer of the thesis has been proven or illustrated, whatever, by, and you list your topic sentences. You add your final remarks, and that's it. Again, 10% of your word count. And so a lot of time has been saved in writing the introduction and conclusion. Now, this is not exactly a time-saving tip, but I do think it will help you write a better essay and therefore spend less time sort of worrying about it. But if I had to give you one piece of advice that will help you write a better essay, it's always to write too much and remove the weakest parts later on. And the reason for this is if you write too much and you remove the weakest parts, then you will be left with a stronger essay and with points that are more directly linked to your thesis statement and are better. Better sounding, better expressed, better. More sophisticated ideas. I think this will also help you be more confident in your writing, and so you'll spend less time worrying, and that saves you time. Time spent worrying is time wasted. Finally, instead of laboring for hours on the editing process, finish everything step by step, take a break, then come back and print your essay, ideally, and read it aloud, and of course, rewrite that which is weak. This leads to less time spent worrying, and so more time saved. Don't be afraid of this step. A lot of people try to put this off. Don't be afraid of this step. And don't be afraid to find out mistakes. There's no such thing as a good writer. There's only such a thing as a good rewriter. So if you do this, you will save yourself a lot of time worrying, and it will save you a lot of time in the editing process. As a small tip, read your essay backwards. Last paragraph all the way up until the introduction. Your mistakes will be clear. That is all from this video. Thank you very much for sticking it through to the end. My name is Mustafa from Flowstate Tutoring. If you have any questions, suggestions, please leave a comment down below. If you liked the video, please like it, comment, share, subscribe, whatever. We do have our free guide on our website, flowstatetutoring.com. We have our full essay writing guide linked in the description down below. We also have our essay writing template and a perfect essay that got full marks available for free on our website. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.